Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to this afternoon's NASCAR Cup Series live commentary stream of the Straight Talk Wireless 400 practice and qualifying session, which is airing live on Amazon Prime as we speak. Practice is actually towards the later going as of right now, less than 10 minutes to go for the Group 2 cars. Group 1 has already concluded their 25-minute session, and single car qualifying will be beginning at the top of the hour. We're going live a little late. I couldn't get logged into my Amazon Prime account, so I am unable to actually watch what is going on. So I figured I'd start the stream closer to the start of qualifying rather than practice for today only. That way I can at least do the commentary like I usually would for qualifying side of things. I have my notes. We'll know obviously the order of which everybody will be going on, and we have NASCAR.com for the live leaderboard to at least be able to tell where everybody ranks as they qualify. As of right now, with less than 10 minutes to go in practice, we're pretty much not going to see anything change on the top of the leaderboard as far as the overall race speed. So we will go over that quickly. Group A, and the way they rounded things out, Bubba Wallace was the quickest and still is the fastest overall in this practice session. Eric Jones, who is also in Group A, is second. Kyle Larson, as you see on our screen, is third overall, although he is fastest of the Group B drivers. Noah Gragson, who was in Group A, is third quickest, and then back to Group B for Christopher Bell and Chase Briscoe, who are fifth, sixth. Alex Bowman, seventh, also in Group B. Group A was Denny Hamlin. He was fourth in that group, eighth overall, ninth and 10th to round out our top 10. Tyler Reddick and Michael McDowell. Just about 10 laps have been ran for the Group B drivers as of this moment. We saw some drivers in the first group run upwards of 35, 36 laps, where some of the most laps turned. For those who went out as soon as practice begun, ran it all the way out into its conclusion to where they used every bit of that 25-minute session pretty much to gauge how the tire fall-off would be, because we know how great the tire fall-off is here at Homestead-Miami Speedway. Taking an updated look at the 5-10 lap averages. A lot of the Group B drivers haven't ran more than 10 laps yet, so I guess that's not going to be a whole lot different at the moment. We'll have to give it another 10 minutes or so to round out there. Fastest 5-lap average overall is Kyle Larson, which is in this group. Bubba Wallace from Group 1 had the fastest 5, 10, 15, and 20-lap averages in practice, where Ryan Blaney had the fastest 25 and 30-lap averages in the Group 1 session. And there were probably over half the drivers, or right around half the drivers from Group 1 that did make a 30-plus lap run, so pretty good sample size there. And not a surprise to see Ryan Blaney up at the top of the leaderboard, considering he had probably the fastest long-run speed car on a mile-and-a-half track last week at Las Vegas, even lower grip here this weekend at Homestead, and a track that he's performed very well in the long runs here the last 2 seasons with this next-gen car. Ryan Blaney should be quick on the long run again tomorrow. And really, if you're looking at trying to predict who you think is going to win this race, it's basically going to be dependent on will we see a late caution or not in Stage 3. If we don't, I'd probably lean towards Ryan Blaney if he can stay out of trouble and keep the track position to be a contender. He did finish second in each of the last 2 races here at Homestead in 2023 and 2024. Although he has never won at the racetrack, he should be a solid top 5 run at the very least. But, yep, thanks for everybody tuning in here, holding out if you were for about the last 45 minutes or so. Kyle Larson is the 3rd fastest 10-lap average in practice, so Bubba Wallace and Denny Hamlin for the Toyota still rank a little bit quicker there. Toyota struggled for the most part last week at Las Vegas. Tyler Reddick had the best of the Toyota bunch throughout the course of the race. None of the Joe Gibbs Toyotas finished inside the top 10. Tyler Reddick, I think, was the only Toyota to have a top 10 finish last week as well. Although he didn't really have race-winning speed by any means throughout the course of the event. Led for a little bit in Stage 3 on a restart. That pit strategy right before the end of the race, when it looked like a lot of drivers were going to be on the edge of the fuel window. They ended up pitting early, caught the ill-timing caution, and they were forced to have to get the wave around on the next restart, which obviously ended up allowing for Joey Logano, Josh Berry, Daniel Suarez to be up at the front of the field at the time of the caution. Logano losing a lot of spots on pit road, resulting in him not getting a top 10 finish yet again. And Josh Berry going on to get his first career win in the NASCAR Cup Series. Oh, that's not where I wanted to go. While we're waiting for practice to finish out, we're going to take a look at the point standings and see how the first 5 races have shaped up, and going into race 6 here this weekend at Homestead, where some of the top drivers are so far this season. Maybe the drivers who are off to a sluggish start as well. William Byron is the current points leader, only the 1 win in the Daytona 500, but he does have 1 stage win. Surprisingly, he doesn't have more than that despite all the stage points he has scored. He's tied for the most top 10s on the season with his teammate Alex Bowman at 4. 3 top 5 finishes as well in the first 5 races for Byron. 110 laps led. So he's been up at the front of the field. He's getting really good finishes. I'd say he has definitely been the most consistent driver, which is the reason why he is leading the early season points. And when you look at outside the top 2 in points, you usually don't see this much of a separation this early into the season. Usually it takes a good, 8-9 races before you start to see kind of 2 drivers head and shoulders ahead of the rest of the field. But that is not the case here in 2025 for William Byron and Christopher Bell. They're head and shoulders ahead of the rest of the field, really. Bell's got the 3 wins this season, but is second in points, minus 29 to Byron, almost a half race worth of points. He could score upwards of 61. Used to be 60, but now they have the extra bonus point for the fastest lap of the race as well. 48 points back to the 2 drivers who are tied for third of Tyler Reddick and Chase Elliott. Reddick has 2 top 5s, his only 2 top 10s on the season. But he is third in points, again, scoring a lot of stage points, kind of similar to Byron, but not getting as consistent finishes as that 2014. Chase Elliott's been getting good finishes, but isn't scoring a lot of stage points because of early issues, maybe poor qualifying on certain tracks. Whatever the case is, he's had speed, getting good finishes. In fact, all 4 Hendrick cars finished inside the top 10 last weekend at Las Vegas, and that's even with a couple of them having issues in the early going of the race. Alex Bowman coming from a couple laps down to get the top 10. Great comeback performance for him, but didn't really score a lot of stage points. Keeps his top 10 streak alive. Again, he is tied for the most top 10s on the year. So he's sitting 5th in points. Hendrick Motorsports as a whole, despite the fact that they have not won a race yet this season outside of the 500 with William Byron, they're all running really well. They have speed, and they keep getting these solid finishes. Wins will fall into their laps eventually. Could end up happening here this weekend. Ryan Blaney, who has had a couple of rough finishes in the last 3 races after getting the 2 top 10s on the super speedway tracks of Daytona and Atlanta, sits in 7th. Joey Logano, 8th in points despite no top 10s on the season. That's because he's qualifying really well every given week. Is up towards the front of the field in Stage 1. I think he was second at the end of Stage 1 at Vegas last week to his teammate Austin Cindric, as I mentioned. Looked like he was going to be in a position to get a really solid finish, but a bad pit stop in the final 40 laps resulted in him finishing well outside the top 10. Once he was back in traffic, was never able to get back up there. It really lacked the long-run speed throughout the Vegas race as well, leading up to the finish. Just the good pit strategy at the time put them in that position. But even though the strategy was successful, the pit stop itself to finish things out on the money stop was not. Chris Buescher, top 10 in points, is sitting 9th. Ross Chastain, 10th, kind of similar to where they were for much of last year, but they didn't get a win in the regular season. And they ended up missing the playoffs despite being inside the top 12, 13 in points all year long. So it's kind of where they're at right now. Same for Bubba Wallace. All 3 of those guys were pretty much right on top of each other in points at the end of the regular season, but none of them made it in because of some upset winners. And although Josh Berry got his first career win last week, he is actually in the top 16 in points. So of the 3 drivers who have won a race this season, they are all in the top 16. Wouldn't have to worry about, at least right now, anybody bumping anybody out of the top 16 in points out, but we still got a long ways to go with 21 races before the playoffs begin in September. Josh Berry, as I mentioned, 13th in points. Denny Hamlin just ahead of him in 12th. Actually lost 5 spots after that poor finish last week at Las Vegas. Didn't score a lot of stage points in that race as well. Again, across the board, JGR really struggled. Looking quicker in practice for Denny Hamlin today, so maybe he could turn that ship around pretty quickly. And he has had good success at Homestead in recent years. Ended up finishing 3rd here a season ago. Michael McDowell's been qualifying well, scoring a lot of stage points. Similar to Logano, though, fades throughout the course of the race. Has good short-run speed, not good long-run speed. But because he's scoring a lot of stages, it's bailed him out. He's still 14th in points. John Hunter Nemechek still sitting with those 2 top 10s in the first 2 races of the year. Has fallen back to 15th, but still inside the top 16 for now. Kyle Busch turning things around after a slow start to the season. 3 top 10s now for him. just outside of that playoff cut line, just 2 points behind Ricky Stenhouse Jr., who is the last driver in. Ryan Preece has won a stage this season at Phoenix on that strategy called the option tire. He's scored a lot of other stage points in other races as well, and actually just coming off his first top 10 finish of the season where he ended up third last week at Las Vegas. Daniel Suarez, who finished second in that event, also had his first top 10. He gains 10 spots in points in just 1 week, goes from 29th in points to 19th. That was a huge gain for Daniel Suarez, much needed after a very, very poor run those first 4 events of the season. Chase Briscoe, despite getting his 100 points back, is still 20th in the point standings. Good thing he got those 100 points back, because otherwise he would be 213 points out of first rather than 113. Only one top 10 finish again. JGR, just other than Christopher Bell winning those 3 races this season, they have really not shown speed outside of that 20 camp so far this year. I think if they are to turn it around, this could be one. I'm surprised that they didn't turn it around at Vegas last week, considering that the mile and a halfs with Joe Gibbs Racing, with Toyota's 2311 as well, in 2023 and 2024, that was where they had their stranglehold, and they won the majority of their events outside of Hamlin winning a short track here and there. It was those guys winning on the mile and a halfs with the next-gen car. But last week just did not have speed. It is concerning, especially when you go on mile and a half tracks back-to-back weeks like this. We shall see. AJ Allmendinger could be due for a good run here today. He had a decent run last week, ended up with a top 10 at Vegas, his first of the season. He did finish in the top 10 in each of his last 3 races here at Homestead, so he could be a good sleeper pick for this week. Some very poor starts to the season still. Brad Keselowski in search for his first top 10 of the year. He is 30th in points, so not scoring anywhere near the stage points that, say, Joey Logano is, who also does not have a lot of good finishes this season. It's so weird that Logano has no top 10s. He's 8th in points. Brad Keselowski with no top 10s is 30th in points. That's the difference in qualifying. Logano's led over 200 laps this season. Brad Keselowski hasn't led a single lap this year. He's got 2 DNFs as well, which doesn't help. So he's finishing outside the top 30 a couple of times. Ty Gibbs, same thing. No top 10s, 2 DNFs, no laps led. And last week at Vegas, he was like 30th place on speed for most of that race. Just a very poor performance all around for that 54 bunch. Probably didn't help that he might have had his bell rung or something of that nature with a flip in a sprint car race just the night before. But needless to say, that team has just been very, very slow. Noah Gragson in that 14 looked very strong at Vegas last week. Was running top 10 for most of that race. Had the contact with Ryan Blaney in that 4-wide restart in the middle going to stage 3. Unfortunately, with damage from that, ended up cutting a tire and resulted in him getting a finish outside the top 30 when it looked like he was going to have a possible top 10, maybe top 15. He had finished top 10 just a couple weeks before that at COTA, and he was top 10 in the Vegas race last season for SHR, this year for Front Row Motorsports. Surprised, honestly, that he is that far in the point standings back, because it seems like he's been running a lot better than a lot of the other drivers that are around him in points. So that is an update on the Cup Series, kind of the first 5 races, especially last week, and how drivers maybe moved up or down in the point standings leading in. We'll go back to the practice times now while we're minutes away from the finish of this session. Refresh the page. So while we're waiting on practice to wrap up and qualifying will begin here in about 5 to 10 minutes, we'll go through the full leaderboard of practice this time instead of just the top front runners. Bubba Wallace still the fastest overall in practice. He ran 24 laps. His best lap was a 32.344. That's an average lap speed of 166.955 miles per hour, ahead of a fellow Toyota counterpart, Eric Jones, by just over 200ths of a second, who ended up in P2. Both those drivers were from Group 1. Kyle Larson, who was the fastest in Group 2, was third fastest overall with a 32.391 as his fastest lap, just over 400ths off of Wallace's fast time. Noah Gragson was fourth. Christopher Bell, who was second in Group 2, was fifth overall. Chase Briscoe showed much more speed here early this weekend. Again, a lot of Toyotas up in the top 10, 4 of which in the top 6 for 3 different teams at Toyota. Denny Hamlin, Tyler Reddick still in the top 10 as well. 8th and 9th. So 5 Toyotas in the top 9 in practice. Alex Bowman, another Hendrick Chevy in the top 10, 7th. And then 10th was Michael McDowell, which, again, we have seen a lot of short run speed out of that 71 car this year. He'll probably qualify as well. Fairly good, I'd imagine, here at Homestead. He was on the pole, in fact, last week at Las Vegas on a 1.5 miles, so he should be a threat for it again this week, I would assume. Justin Haley was 11th, Ryan Blaney 12th, John Hunter Nemechek 13th, Zane Smith 14th, 15th for Ross Chastain, Austin Cindric in 16th, William Byron 17th, Austin Dillon 18th, 19th for Daniel Suarez, and Kyle Busch 20th overall in practice. Riley Herbst 21st, Chris Buescher 22nd, Ricky Stenhouse Jr. 23rd, Carson Hocevar 24th, AJ Allmendinger 25th, Todd Gilliland 26th, Brad Keselowski 27th, Cole Custer 28th, Ryan Preece 29th, Ty Gibbs 30th again. Man, that is, what a struggle. All the other Toyotas up there in the top 10, and Gibbs back in 30th still. Josh Berry 31st, Joey Logano 32nd. That is not good for him either. Again, still looking for that first top 10 finish of the year. Chase Elliott 33rd. That's shocking considering that he has a couple Hendrick teammates in the top 10. Kind of similar to that of Gibbs with the Toyota side of things. Ty Dillon 34th. Shane Van Gisbergen 35th. Cody Ware 36th. J.J. Yaley, the only open entry for this week, in the 44 for New York Racing. 37th, rounding out our 37-car field in practice. Kyle Larson had the fastest 5-lap average in practice. 10-lap average goes to Bubba Wallace, as well as 15 lap average as well. Then Kyle Larson jumped up again a little bit quicker on the fire-off speed and long run for Larson. 20th lap average plus fastest in all 3 categories, 20, 25, 30. So Larson good on the short run, good on the long run. I said it yesterday during the Truck Series live commentary stream. I might take him to sweep the weekend. I took him to win the truck race last night. I'm taking him to win Xfinity. And already I'm really liking him for the Cup race again tomorrow. I liked him last week on the 1.5 miles. He leads a lot of laps with this next-gen car on the 1.5-mile tracks. And even though he ended up finishing 9th last week, he did lead the most laps in that race. Just seemed like when he was back in traffic, he couldn't pass as well as some of the other drivers, like a Ryan Blaney. Pretty quick even, too, on the long run. William Byron, I think, might have had a little bit better in-traffic speed than his teammate Kyle Larson. So maybe Byron could be one to watch again here this weekend, as he's been on a tear early in the year, obviously leading the point standings, as we mentioned not that long ago. So, with that being said, we should be getting into qualifying very shortly. Keep refreshing the page to see if the qualifying order comes up on screen, as they are in the midst of wrapping up Group 2 practice. 25 minutes for each of these 2 groups. I do have the qualifying order on my phone. So in order, the first, we'll just go first 10 drivers to qualify will be J.J. Yaley, Cody Ware, Shane Van Gisbergen, Austin Dillon, Noah Gragson. Those are the first 5. And then Cole Custer, Kyle Busch, Carson Hocevar, Todd Gilliland, and Ryan Blaney will be the next 5 after them, when we do get into qualifying. Space Cowgirl, Wade, Bradley Thomas, thanks for tuning in, everybody, by the way. I agree, let's sweep the weekend. Yeah, I think he's got a very, very good case for that. Although for a long bit last night, it didn't look like he was going to win the truck race, and it was Corey Haim's race to lose, but engine problems in the final 10 laps on multiple occasions, costing Haim the lead once, then he got it back, just to end up dropping out of the lead again with about 3 laps to go because of more electrical / engine issues, and didn't get a great finish out of it. Well, I mean, he did get a good finish, but he didn't get the finish that he should have had. He ended up 3rd, but clearly had the quickest car. Larson had a good car, obviously. Had driven up to 2nd. Restarted on that final restart back in 24th, it would have been, towards the tail end of the lead lap, because he gained 23 spots at the end of the race to getting the win. And the thing that impressed me most about that run is the fact that he was able to manage his tires well and still get through the field. Because he did not have that kind of long run speed all night. So being at the back, I thought he was done unless he got at least one caution, maybe two, in the late going to kind of bunch things back up and take advantage on a restart, maybe have a quick pit stop, because that would have laid into another pit stop late in the race had we gotten a yellow. That never ended up happening. But didn't need it. Was able to do it under green after all. I'll count out my boy till the checker's thrown, yeah. Yeah, I can never count out Larson. That is for sure. I'm still shocked, even though I was counting him out. I picked him to win the race last night, but I thought it was over when he ended up having to restart at the back without any yellows. And yeah, I was definitely wrong on that. I was wrong on that, but I was right on my prediction. 2 for 4 on the Truck Series this season for me with race win picks. Both of the Spire wins this year I ended up taking. Kyle Busch, Kyle Larson. This goes to show just how hard it is to win these races. In any of these top 3 series. Racing in general. Had the fastest truck. Driver executes flawlessly. Pit crew for Corey Haim is great all night too. Anytime they had pit stops under caution of the 3, won the race off pit road all 3 times. Better of a short run truck. Maybe Haim was sitting back a little bit more to manage his tires, which he was better on the longer run than everybody except for Larson on that final run to the checker. Even then, he still might have been better. It was just the fact that his truck shut off on him on multiple occasions. When's the race for today? Xfinity race starts at 4 p.m. Eastern. Will be the Xfinity race later today. We'll have live commentary coverage for that full flag-to-flag action. Our Cup Series race tomorrow will begin at 2:30 p.m. Eastern with the pre-race. Qualifying leaderboard now on screen. So once again, J.J. Yaley will be the first to go out. Single car, 1 round for all oval tracks outside of super speedways this season will be 1 round. It'll be group qualifying on the road courses like we saw at COTA, but also 1 round. The only multi-round qualifying we'll see are the super speedways of Atlanta, Talladega, and Daytona this season, which we saw the first 2 races of the year. We have yet to get to Talladega for the first time. We got another month or so until that race. Quick statistics on J.J. Yaley. Best finish of his career, actually, 30th. Twice, 2006, 2019. One with Rick Ware Racing, and 2006 with Joe Gibbs Racing. I'm surprised he didn't have a better finish in his 3 Joe Gibbs Racing starts. When I saw that, looking up the stats for this qualifying rundown for today's stream, I was kind of shocked, honestly. I was like, man, he didn't get a single top 20. 3 races with that 18 car. Even with Rick Ware Racing, I'm surprised that we didn't have a race where there were a lot of DNFs where he maybe finished like 24th or something like that too. He's got a lot of starts here. More than a dozen. Cutting in and out. Is it a lag? It might have just been a lagging issue for a quick second. I think it's good now. It's saying excellent connection on my end. Got 19 votes in the chat poll for who you think is most likely to win of the 4 drivers I put in there for tomorrow. Voting options are between Kyle Larson, Ryan Blaney, Christopher Bell, and Tyler Reddick. I think could be 4 of the favorites. 3 of those drivers have won here in their career. Blaney second each of the last 2. So that's why I came up with those 4. There's the 3 next-gen winners, and then the guy who's finished runner-up the last 2 seasons. William Byron would be the honorable mention, there. I can only put up to 4 options, though, in the chat poll. I would definitely put more if I had the availability to do so. Usually I put 3 and then other, but I figured because this was qualified, I could kind of get away with just putting most likely to win, and then you can pick one of those 4. It's not necessarily saying that you think one of those 4 will win, just the most likely of them. But yeah, Larson leading that poll by quite a bit right now, 55%, 23% taking Blaney, 14% for Bell, and only 9% taking the defending winner of the race, Tyler Reddick. Defending winner of the race, though, this race took place in the fall last season. So we run only one race a year here at Homestead-Miami Speedway. We'll take a quick break here while we're waiting for qualifying to begin. You're listening live on KRC to the Straight Talk Wireless 400. Practice over, qualifying set to begin here shortly. We'll get our diecast showing out as well that we usually do in these live commentary streams. I wait till the end of stage 2 for the races. This isn't a race, so I figured in between practice and qualifying is the best time for it. I wasn't sure what diecast to show off this weekend. I know I haven't shown this one off yet this year of my Ryan Blaney collection, him being my favorite driver. This diecast specifically is from 2019, and it is his PPG Ford Mustang. And he ran the scheme, I know, for several races that season. Specifically, I was actually at the Atlanta race in the spring that year, and he ran this paint scheme for that race specifically. And I think that might have been the only race I've seen him run this scheme in person. I believe he had the PPG car for the first year of the next gen in 2022 for a couple of races as well. And the only other time I've seen PPG on a paint scheme in the Cup Series since then has been on an Austin Cindric car, and not for Ryan Blaney. So this is a little outdated, despite the fact that 2019 doesn't feel like it was that long ago, but it was 6 years ago already. So I guess this diecast is getting fairly old. I can remember from this season, a lot of people on the internet really like this paint scheme. I like it too. It honestly wasn't my favorite of his throughout the course of that season. I liked his Advanced Auto Parts car a little bit better. A couple different renditions of that paint scheme, but a lot of people do like that PPG scheme. Frank Powers, Craig Franklin, welcome to the stream. Who's going to win the Xfinity Championship this year? Man, I'm going to have to take Justin Allgaier again if he makes it to the Championship 4. I know he didn't win at Phoenix this year, but I mean, he was so good at Phoenix in the spring last year and was able to capitalize and end up winning the championship last season. I would imagine that's going to be the same thing again for him here this year. Even though he didn't win the race, he had the race won if it wasn't for that late caution. He's going to have to get better on the restarts. He definitely lacks, late race restarts that seem to cost him a lot. I don't know if it's just that he's not aggressive enough, but he does get beat on late race restarts a lot. And it's not just Phoenix either. It's a lot of racetracks. This day and age of NASCAR, it's all take, no give, especially when it comes down to late race restarts. Doesn't matter what kind of track you're on. And I think that gets the best of him. Because even when you have the race won in that similar situation, you're still restarting in the lead. You still have a chance to redeem yourself. You're setting the pace. You're the first to launch in the restart zone and still not able to get the job done, it seems like, more often than not. If you're just tuning in, Bubba Wallace was fastest in practice overall. He was in Group 1. Fastest in Group 2 was Kyle Larson. Larson had the fastest 5-lap average. Wallace the fastest 10, 15-lap averages. Larson with the fastest 20, 25, and 30-lap averages in practice overall. In Group 1, where Wallace had the best short-run car, Ryan Blaney had the best long-run car, 25, 30-lap average best for Blaney of the Group 1, Group A drivers. So if we're looking at the race for tomorrow, when we come down to the long runs, I think you're looking at Larson and Blaney being the two favorites there, which again isn't really a surprise when you consider how both of those cars were last weekend on a similar styled racetrack at Las Vegas. where Larson led the most laps and Blaney probably passed easily the most cars in the race, having to come from the back on multiple occasions before getting involved in a wreck. Pit strategy cycled Larson out of it and still ended up with a top 10, but despite leading the most laps, probably not the finish he would have liked to have had. So again, single car qualifying here. And it is just now beginning. J.J. Yaley is getting up to speed out on the racetrack for his qualifying lap. Again, I'm unable to actually view qualifying myself. So if you're wondering how I'm doing this commentary, I'm solely looking off of the leaderboard. And I've got my notes and my stats for each driver through the field as I usually do for qualifying in the Cup Series race streams specifically. So I've got a lot to look off of to be able to do this without actually being able to see the action personally. I will keep you updated. Leaderboard's usually ahead of the actual race broadcast, especially when they're on streaming with Prime, I've noticed. And I actually don't have cable. I have Hulu, and that's a streaming platform, and it seems to be ahead of that by about a lap, half a lap or so, depending on what track size it is. Yaley, the only open entry again this weekend, so we will have 37 cars in the field for tomorrow's race. We've seen Yaley run a couple of races this year. Failed to qualify for the Daytona 500 at the very beginning of the season, but has run a couple races since. And we'll see that 44 car back on the track, I'm sure, numerous times throughout the rest of the year as well. 34.121 for J.J. Yaley as he wraps up his opening lap. 158.260 mile per hour average. Of course, we don't really see a lot of speed out of a lot of the open entries that do run at the Cup Series level. He was last overall in practice, and I'd be shocked if that lap time isn't going to be the last of 37 here in qualifying as well. Cody Ware is on the racetrack. His best finish in 2021 at Homestead-Miami Speedway, 32nd place finish there. So kind of similar to J.J. Yaley, just not able to get decent finish even for the equipment that he is in. Kind of surprising because you would think as many races as both Ware and Yaley have ran at Homestead-Miami Speedway, there wouldn't be one of those races where a lot of drivers DNF and they're able to still get a good finish like you would see from a lot of these backmarker drivers. Ware wrapping up his lap, 33.184 for Cody, 162.729 mile per hour average. Shane Van Gisbergen for Trackhouse Racing. Slow start this season outside the top 30 in points. Only one road course this year, but even didn't have a great finish there at COTA. Needs to have a good run at some point in time to try to get that win and get into the playoffs, which it's definitely looking like a must-win situation, as we probably expected for SVG being a rookie here in 2025. This will be his first career start at Homestead-Miami Speedway. He did run a few ovals in the Cup Series for Colleague Racing last season on a part-time basis in the Cup Series, but Homestead was not one of those tracks late in the year. SVG fastest of our first three, 32.740. Ware obviously was quicker than Yaley on his lap as expected. 0.4 of a second difference between the 88 and 51. Austin Dillon in the 3 car. Best finish at Homestead-Miami Speedway came with the next gen, in fact, in 2022, where he finished 4th. Austin has finished 12th or better in 8 of his last 9 starts at Miami. He had 8 straight finishes of 12th or better from 2015 to 2023, and he's had 4 top 10s in his last 6 races here. So Austin Dillon could be a sneaky good fantasy pick for this weekend if you're looking for somebody as a garage driver for the fantasy league. He is quietly good here at the Homestead-Miami Speedway and fastest of the first 4 here in qualifying early on as well. 32.453 for Austin Dillon, a 166.394 mile per hour average. Noah Gragson, 5th car on racetrack for qualifying. This will be his 3rd career start at Homestead-Miami Speedway. His best of his first 2 starts here was last season with SHR, where he finished 19th. He was running top 10 all weekend especially in the second half of that race at Las Vegas. Top 10 in practice today. Top 10 in practice last week. I think he could be another good sneaky, underdog pick to have a decent run. Unfortunately, got in an accident in stage 3 last week with a cut right front tire, which took him out of a good finish. It looked like he was at the very least going to get a top 15. And with being outside the top 30 in points, really needs a quick turnaround here. So he isn't in as much of a must-win situation later in the regular season to try to vouch for a playoff spot. Pretty good lap for qualifying purpose here for Gragson, 32.101. 3.5 tenths quicker than Austin Dillon to get to that P1 slot. 41 car of Cole Custer now on track. He'll be making his 4th start at the Homestead-Miami Speedway this weekend. His 2nd with the next-gen car. So he ran here with Rick Ware Racing on a part-time effort in 2022. With SHR and then with Rick Ware Racing in 23 as well. 22nd place finish in his rookie season of 2020 would be the best of the previous 3 races for Custer at Homestead. 32.382 for Cole, and that will line him up 2nd quickest of our first 6 qualifiers. Kyle Busch, our first former winner here at the Homestead-Miami Speedway. 2-time winner here in both of his championship winning efforts in 2015 and 2019. With those 2 wins, he also has 5 top 5s and 10 top 10s in his last 13 starts in Miami. Had a top 10 run going last week before a right rear tire came off at Las Vegas. Led the most laps in the 3rd race of the year at COTA. And knowing that his teammate, Austin Dillon, has sneaky good speed here at Homestead over recent years, Kyle Busch could have another good run coming up for him this weekend. Definitely be a quiet one to watch. 32.369 for Busch. Better than his teammate Austin Dillon. That'll put him 2nd quickest in our early qualifiers. Over 2.5 tenths though off of the fast lap from Gragson. Lap average of 166.826 miles per hour for Busch. 2nd-year driver Carson Hocevar for Spire Motorsports in the number 77. Defending Rookie of the Year is on track. Only has 1 career start at Homestead, and that was last season in his rookie year, but it was a good one. Finished 9th, top 10. Looking to go 2 for 2 at the track this weekend for good and solid top 10 finishes. 32.307. Spire's been good in qualifying so far this season. 2nd quickest for Hocevar, though still very early in the session. His teammate Michael McDowell had the pole a week ago. Hocevar not quite as quick as his teammates Haley and McDowell in practice. Leaving a little to be desired there. 34 car of Todd Gillen now on track. Best finish is 20th in 2024, which was last season. This will be his 4th start at Homestead-Miami Speedway this weekend. He'll be the 2nd of the 3 Front Row Motorsport Fords to qualify here this afternoon. Waiting for the lap to round out here for Gillen. And he will jump up to 5th with a 32.445. 166.436 mile per hour average. So Noah Gragson, fastest of our first 9 qualifiers here today. Ryan Blaney will be up next. Runner-up in each of the last 2 starts for Blaney at Homestead through 23 and 24. And he's finished 3rd or better in 3 of the last 5 races. Obviously, those 2 runner-ups, and also had a 3rd place finish here back in 2021. I do believe they will be on a slight break here before Blaney gets his qualifying lap in. Maybe 2nd of the bigger names here in the early going alongside of Kyle Busch. No, he is finishing his lap right now. Again, I do not have visual purposes of this going on right now, so we're rolling through this quickly. 34.121. Sorry, that was the wrong lap. I was reading J.J. Yaley. 2nd quickest, 32.141 for Ryan Blaney. 400ths off of Noah Gragson's time, who's still quickest. But 2 Fords on the front row for right now. 10 drivers in. Eric Jones on the 43 for Legacy Motor Club is on track. Career best Homestead finish in 2019 with Joe Gibbs Racing, where he finished 3rd. His one top 10 finish in his 8 career starts here, and that was that 3rd place finish that day in 2019. So not a great track for Eric Jones in his Cup career, both with JGR, Front Row Motorsports, Furniture Row Motorsports, and obviously even with Legacy as well. Has not finished inside the top 10 in his 4 starts in the 43 car here. Danny Alvarez, thanks for tuning in. Carson could have gotten a top 5 last year, not going to lie. Yeah, I remember he had a quick car. This was definitely a showing out party on the ovals last season. Curious to see if he has another solid run here today as well. So they didn't have the commercial break for Blaney, but I do believe they had it before Eric Jones because he still hasn't wrapped up his qualifying lap yet. So we'll take a quick break while we're waiting on that. You're listening live on KRC to Homestead-Miami Speedway qualifying for the NASCAR Cup Series. Technical issues that we had here at the start of the stream. It's going to lead for a slightly shorter stream. Didn't get it started towards the end of practice, so our like goal would have been 50 coming into this one per usual for these live commentary streams for practice and qualifying for the Cup Series. We're at 19 likes currently. Be sure to hit the like button if you have not done so yet. Next 10 drivers to qualify will be Eric Jones, Ty Gibbs, Zane Smith, Bubba Wallace, Ty Dillon. Those are the next 5 specifically, and then the next 5 after them will be Riley Herbst, Denny Hamlin, John Hunter Nemechek, Justin Haley, and Chase Briscoe. A lot of Toyotas coming up here in this next group. All right. $17 on your screen. Oh, you're talking about the likes? 21 as of right now. I think you have to refresh it. I've noticed when I'm in the chat on my phone, the like isn't what it's showing on my YouTube studio running the stream. It's usually like that on a pretty consistent basis. So I have to refresh the chat to usually refresh the like counter on there. It's usually going to be a couple more for me more often. All right, 6 for Eric Jones, 32.396. As he wrapped up his lap, Ty Gibbs is now on the racetrack. Gibbs finished 7th in 2023. It was his only top 10 in his 3 career starts at Homestead. As he was 30th overall in practice a little bit ago, he's finished outside the top 30 in all but 1 race so far this season, which is why he's outside the top 30 in points in the early going of the year as well. It's just been an abysmal season for Gibbs. Kind of picking up from where he left off from last year. The speed just has not looked good this weekend either, but qualifying a little bit better for him. Maybe he can at least have a good start on race day. That would be a positive step in the right direction. Decent qualifying lap, 32.297. I don't think that's going to hold up for a top 10 spot, but 3rd for right now, at least for Gibbs. Considering we have a lot more Toyotas to go, and he was one of the slowest Toyotas in practice, we shall see. Although Eric Jones was quicker in practice, was 2nd fastest overall, and he didn't set a very good qualifying lap with a 32.396. So I guess you never know. Zane Smith in the 38 car will be the last of the Front Row Motorsport entries to qualify. Finished 30th here last season in his only Homestead-Miami Speedway start. 32.317 for Zane Smith on his qualifying lap, and that will post him 5th quickest out of 13 so far in qualifying. Bubba Wallace, who was fastest in practice for the second consecutive week, is looking to have a solid finish this go-around, which that did not happen at Vegas last weekend. Wallace does have only one career top 10 finish in 6 starts at Miami, and that would be a 6th place finish with 2311 Racing just 2 years ago in 2023. He'll be the 14th driver to qualify here this afternoon as well in our single car, single round qualifying session. And Wallace is going to jump up to 3rd quickest with a 32.211. Right behind the Fords of Gregson and Blaney, in front of fellow Toyota Ty Gibbs. Speaking of Ty, we've got the other Ty on the racetrack, Ty Dillon for Colleague Racing in the number 10. First start with Colleague at Homestead-Miami Speedway. Best finish for Ty Dillon came with Germain Racing in 2018, where he finished 22nd. This is only going to be his 2nd next-gen start at Homestead here this weekend as well. Had a start here with Legacy Motor Club in the 42 car a couple seasons ago. Had a great lap for Ty Dillon, 12th out of 15, 32.518. I'm curious to see what he could do this weekend on speed, because AJ Allmendinger, his teammate, has scored 3 straight top 10s at Homestead-Miami Speedway. Although Ty Dillon didn't range that quick in practice, long run speed could be better in the race than what it was today. Riley Herbst will be making his first Homestead start as a rookie in the 35 car 2311 Racing. He is now on track. Finished 6th, 2nd, and 8th in his last 3 Xfinity Series races at Homestead. Seems like the low grip tracks were really good for him on the Xfinity level the last few years with SHR. Could fare well for him here as well. Not a bad lap for Riley. Middle of the road, 32.334, which ranges him 7th out of 16. Denny Hamlin will be the 2nd Joe Gibbs Racing Toyota to qualify here today. He finished 3rd last season at the Homestead-Miami Speedway. He's a 3-time winner at this racetrack, 2009, 2013, and 2020. He has 2 wins, 3 top 5s, 9 top 10 finishes in his last 12 races here. So he gets good finishes, but he's not up at the front of the field a lot, except for when he is competing for the win. Again, 2 of those getting the wins in the last 12 starts, but only 3 top 5s, despite the 9 top 10s, as I just mentioned. Only other top 5 for himself outside of those 2 wins in the last 12. Hamlin wrapping up his qualifying lap, also middle of the road, 9th quickest, 32.379 for Hamlin. Next Toyota up, John Hunter Nemechek in the 42 for Legacy Motor Club. Best finish for Nemechek in 2020 at Homestead, where he finished 19th. He'll be making his 6th start at the Speedway this weekend. And his 2nd in the 42 car for obviously the 2nd consecutive year. Thoughts on the progressive scheme? I personally like it. I mean, it's basic, but I think basic works in certain cases, and it works for me. I think the blue pops really well with the progressive car. Unique sponsor to have in the Cup Series, but still a bigger corporate sponsor, so cool to see for me personally. Wow, great lap by Nemechek, 32.171. Fastest of the Toyotas so far. We've had quite a few of them go. I think there's only 3 more Toyotas that still have to qualify, and that would be Reddick, Bell, and Briscoe, I believe. Yeah, those are the last 3. Great lap by Nemechek. Again, 3rd quickest, 32.171. Justin Haley for Spire Motorsports is next in the number 7 car. He was 11th in practice last hour. His best finish in 5 career Homestead starts, 23rd in 2023. .350, ninth place for Justin Haley on his qualifying lap. So we're about halfway home, 19 down, and the 19 car will be the 20th to qualify, that being Chase Briscoe for Joe Gibbs Racing. No top 10s in 4 starts, all with SHR for Chase Briscoe at Homestead. His best finish is 12th, which was last season in 2024. Obviously, shout out to Ty for watching the stream. I read your comment. Thanks for tuning in. We have a long enough break in the action here. I think Briscoe might not be out on the track quite yet. Again, I do not have the visual purposes of qualifying today, so we've been kind of freelancing the stream a little bit, if you will. Technical issues on my side. We will be good to go for the Xfinity race a little later on. Thank goodness we have a live leaderboard that's working today. Otherwise, I don't know that I would have been able to do this stream, but... And we are good right now. And I do believe they did take a commercial break, so we'll take a quick break here while we try to kill time until Chase Briscoe wraps up his qualifying lap. We're listing live Straight Talk Wireless 400 qualifying at Homestead for the NASCAR Cup Series KRC Edition. All right. A little less than an hour and a half away from our Xfinity Series race coverage. Again, that'll be at 4 p.m. today. 200 lap event, 300 miles at Homestead. Kyle Larson trying to start the weekend 2 for 2 after winning the Truck Series race last night. Xfinity practice and qualifying actually took place earlier this morning. Before Cup practice and qualifying took place, obviously started at about 1 p.m. Eastern here today. .400-mile, 267-lap race. Our scheduled distance for tomorrow, which has been the race length for Homestead-Miami Speedway since it debuted in the Cup Series. At least the 400-mile length. Obviously, the stage racing didn't come around until 2017. The leaderboard will update here very shortly. There it is. I was going to say, he's been out on the track for a minute now because I noticed the time elapsed was running for about a minute or so. Second quickest for Chase Briscoe, 32.116, only 0.15 of a second off of Gregson's fast lap, so he splits up the Fords of Gregson and Blaney. Blaney now bumped from the front row. Good lap for Chase. 20th in points, needs a good run here this weekend. Ricky Stenhouse Jr. next on track, also does not have a top 10 in his career. 13 starts at Homestead-Miami Speedway, 0 for 13 getting the top 10. Coincidentally enough, the number 13 is his best finish, which came in 2021. Most of those starts coming in the 17. With the then name Roush Fenway Racing, obviously now with JTG Doherty for the last several years. 32.395 for Stenhouse, 14th. Back half of the field, it looks like, is where he'll end up starting once we get through the rest of these qualifiers. Next several to go, we'll have Tyler Reddick, then Brad Keselowski, Michael McDowell, Joey Logano, AJ Allmendinger, Chris Buescher, Christopher Bell, Chase Elliott, Kyle Larson are kind of due up. Tyler Reddick, the defending winner of this race, he's finished 4th or better in 4 of his 5 career starts here at Homestead-Miami Speedway. And on top of winning the race last year, he also qualified on the pole, so he's the defending pole sitter and defending winner of this event. 97 laps led in that race a year ago for Reddick. And in fact, of the active drivers, there are only 4 drivers to have qualified on the pole that will be running this race this weekend. Those 4 being Reddick last season, William Byron in 2022, Joey Logano in 2012, and Denny Hamlin 6 times in 21, 20, 19, 18, 17, and 15. 5 straight for Hamlin, 6 in an 8-year stretch. Unbelievable that he has qualified on the pole that many times. I don't remember that stat doing the live commentary stream last year for practice and qualifying. So when I saw that in a racing reference earlier in the week, I was shocked. I was like, holy crap. I don't remember that. Probably because it was a championship weekend for so long and Hamlin was like never running for a championship here. Probably why I didn't realize it. But yeah, 6 poles. Not going to get one here today, though. 13th is where he's currently sitting. And Tyler Reddick, who just qualified, 10:32.350 was his lap. So I definitely don't think that's going to hold for a top 10 spot either. Michael McDowell on the racetrack. He qualified on the pole. Actually, Brad Keselowski just qualified. 19th for Brad, 32.511. Out of 23 cars. That was a very poor lap. Keselowski has never won at Homestead. His best finish is 3rd, 2014 and 15. And his only next-gen top 10, he finished 5th in 2022. That's his only top 10 at Homestead in the last 4 years. So now Michael McDowell's on the track. His best finish here was in 2021, the year he won the Daytona 500, where he finished in 6th. It was the 3rd race of the season that year. And oddly enough, in that race, that's his only start inside the top 10 at Homestead-Miami Speedway in his Cup career. So if he qualifies top 10 today, maybe that means he's going to qualify on the top 10 and finish top 10 in the race again this season. But maybe that's not going to be the case because he doesn't qualify top 10. 32.395, 15th for Michael McDowell. So the Spire Chevy's not showing as much speed in qualifying this week as last week. McDowell will not be on the front row 2 weeks in a row. And the driver who started outside of the front row last week, and again the 2012 pole winner here at Homestead, is Joey Logano. Still in search for his first top 10 of the season. Only win at Homestead for Logano in his Cup career was 2018. He has just 1 top 10 at the racetrack in the last 5 starts. So not only off to a sluggish start this year by way of getting good finishes, but this isn't a great track for him in recent years either. 32.288, a pretty solid qualifying lap for Joey Logano, 6th quickest, almost 2/10 off of the pole lap, which is still Noah Gragson. Gragson was the 5th driver to qualify. We are more than halfway through the lineup, and he is still on the top of the speed charts. That was a great lap early on. We don't usually see drivers early in the session be able to put laps out like that. But even if he doesn't get the pole, he's going to be starting towards the front of the field. Could be fun to watch. AJ Allmendinger, 3 straight top 10s at Homestead for him. 8th, 5th, and 3rd in his last 3 starts, all with the next-gen car, 2022 through 2024. And he's coming off a top 10 at Vegas with this very car last weekend on a 1.5 miles. Could be a great racetrack for him. No surprise that he qualifies great as well. 6th, 32.214, just faster than Logano, who went just before him. I think AJ's going to be on my fantasy team this weekend. I was contemplating to put him in as a garage driver, knowing how good he is at Homestead. I'm not going to use him a lot this season. I think he's a good garage pick for your fantasy team. We'll obviously go over the in-depth analysis with the predictions in our pre-race tomorrow to further add on to that, but AJ very good here at Homestead-Miami Speedway. Chris Buescher is now on track. His best finish here, 13th in 2022. No top 10s through 9 career starts. Definitely not one of his better racetracks. 32.278. It is a good qualifying lap, though. That should put him 7th, I believe. Yep, right in between Logano and Allmendinger. Kind of figure because I remember the lap times that they ran just before him, and it was right in the middle of them. So the last 3 drivers to qualify are 6th, 7th, and 8th. Not in the same order that they qualified, but kind of weird. They all ended up around each other. Christopher Bell will be the 28th driver out on track out of 37 today, so just 10 drivers left. Bell won here in 2023. It's his only career win at Homestead. He finished 4th and 1st in his last 2 starts here at Miami. 3 wins, obviously, already on the year in races 2 through 4. Last week, though, failed to finish inside the top 10 at Vegas on 1.5 miles. Though looked like the fastest of the JGR Toyotas. He was up as high as 2nd at one point late in stage 2, but then once he fell back in traffic that last time for the beginning of stage 3, he never got back in the top 10 the rest of the day. 32.309 for Bell, 11th on our speed chart. Chase Elliott is now on track. Elliott's never won at the Homestead-Miami Speedway, but his best finish here is a runner-up 2nd place day in 2020. Only 1 top 10 in his last 4 starts at Homestead. So hasn't been too kind to him here in recent years. Looking to turn that ship around. He is coming off a top 10 at Las Vegas a week ago. Going to go ahead and close that chat poll out now that we're getting close to the end of the stream. 53 votes are casted for who you think is going to be most likely of the 4 drivers in the chat poll to win tomorrow's race. And by a landslide, Kyle Larson, 66% of the votes. That might be the most one-sided poll we've had so far this year. 18% for Ryan Blaney, 9% Christopher Bell. Tyler Reddick, the defending winner of the race, only 5% of those 53 votes. Appreciate everybody that did vote. We have quite a few people in the chat watching right now, almost 90, but likes are only at 24. Be sure to hit the like button on the stream so we can get to our goal of 50 here in the closing minutes of qualifying. Again, 9 drivers still to qualify. Chase Elliott, Kyle Larson, Ryan Preece, then Daniel Suarez, Ross Chastain, Austin Cindric, Alex Bowman. Last week's winner, Josh Berry, and William Byron, our current points leader, will be the last out on the track. We'll take our final break of the stream while we're waiting up on Chase Elliott to get on the track. You're listening live on KRC. Elliott will actually be the first of the 4 Hendrick Chevys to qualify, so they're all in the back portion of this lineup. The qualifying metric is from the most recent race, owner's points and driver's points. And considering all 4 Hendrick cars were in the top 10 last week at the end of the race as well, that they're all in the top 6 in the points and owner standings, that is why they're all going out deep in this qualifying session. All in the last 9. But Elliott will be the first of the 4. His teammate Kyle Larson right after him. Elliott finishing his lap up. Trying to find him. I think I skipped him. There he is, 13th. 32.311. 331. 32.331 for Chase Elliott. 13th, just outside the top 10. As for Kyle Larson, who is now on track, he's won at Homestead once. That was 2022, first year with the next gen. And he's only had 2 top 10s in his last 6 races here. But in both of those top 10 finishes, he led 96 and 199 laps. So he leads a lot of laps at Homestead. He doesn't get great results. And we saw last night he actually had a spin in the truck race, but still came back to win it. He will have speed this weekend. He was the fastest in the long run in practice of 20, 25, and 30 lap averages. He was third fastest overall in that practice session. And he's 10th quickest on our qualifying speed charts with a 32.302. So Larson 10th. Front row still as of right now, Noah Gragson, Chase Briscoe. Time to beat for Gragson, 32.101. He was the 5th driver out on the racetrack, and we only have 7 to go. Ryan Preece for RFK Racing will be up. He's the 3rd to last Ford, the last of the 3 RFK Fords. Coming off a 3rd place finish a week ago at Vegas for Preece. His best finish was last season at Homestead in his career, where he finished 10th with Stuart Haas Racing, 10th and 13th in his only next-gen Miami starts. So not a bad track for Preece, although RFK Racing has struggled here in recent years. Preece struggling in qualifying along with his teammate Keselowski, 32.460, slotted 1 spot ahead of him. Looks like Preece going to be starting outside the top 30 here by the time we finish things off, assuming that these last qualifiers of the 6 are going to out-qualify that lap time that Preece just put up. I would imagine they can. 2 Trackhouse Chevys, 2 Hendrick Fords, Penske and a Wood Brothers Ford, Hendrick Chevys, and then a Penske and a Wood Brothers Ford to finish things out here. Both the Trackhouse cars will be back-to-back, starting with Daniel Suarez. Suarez on track, 10th in 2022 is the best finish at Homestead for him. He's finished 16th twice, and then that 10th in 2022 are his finishes with the next-gen car, and with Trackhouse Racing here on this 1.5 miles. Coming off a 2nd place run last week at Vegas, though, Ryan Preece's lap time, Suarez is actually slower, 32.513. That's surprising. That's 5th to last for Daniel Suarez in qualifying. Stats not too promising considering he only has that 1 top 10 in his career at Homestead, but was not expecting him to qualify outside the top 30, but he just did. And his teammate Ross Chastain just rounded out with a 32.391, which is quicker, but not by much. Looks like 21st for Ross Chastain. Chastain's best finish here, though, 2nd also in 2022. His other finishes with the next gen, 33rd and 31st. So Trackhouse has struggled at Homestead with the 99 and the 1 here in recent years. And definitely a slow start again here for this weekend. They're both qualifying in the back half of the field. Austin Cindric is up. He won a stage last weekend at Las Vegas Motor Speedway. Had a solid run, finished in the top 10 as well. Though at Homestead-Miami Speedway, he will still be looking for his first top 10. It'll be his 4th career start at the track this weekend. His best finish here is 12th in 2023. He did finish 6th in that Vegas race a week ago, and he qualified well also. I think he started 3rd. So he should be quick in qualifying here today. And top 5 for Cindric, 5th with a 32.193. Great lap for Austin. 3 qualifiers still to go, Bowman, Berry, Byron. And up next is Alex Bowman, who's had 3 top 10s in his last 5 Homestead-Miami Speedway starts. Career best here was last season, where he finished 7th. Doesn't lead a lot of laps at Homestead, though that has been kind of the Alex Bowman way of going with this next-gen car. Gets good finishes, doesn't seem to lead a lot of laps. He tends to finish at Homestead in the back half of the top 10. He is coming off the top 10, as I mentioned already, all 4 HMS Chevys. Finished top 10 last week at Vegas. Bowman actually came from 2 laps down at one point from back at stage 1 to get to that. So it was a quiet performing day. What's not so quiet is Alex Bowman to the top of the speed charts. Our first sub-32 second lap time, as he was more than 1/10 of a second quicker than the original fastest lap set by Gragson early in the session. Wow, blistering lap there for Alex Bowman. He might get his first pole of the season with that lap time, 31.982. With just 2 drivers to go, being Josh Berry and William Byron, both good qualifiers this season. Barry started up in the top 10 at 4 of the first 5 races. Byron, he just qualifies well everywhere. He's already got double-digit pole awards in his Young Cup career. And we'll see where Josh Berry is, coming off a win at Vegas a week ago. Great lap for Berry also, but not quite quick enough to get the pole. Second for Josh Berry, 32.055. What a lap by these second-to-last drivers to go out and qualify. And now the very last driver's out there, and that would be William Byron. As for Berry, quickly, 11th last season at Homestead. And he only had one Xfinity top 10 in his 4 starts here in that series. So not the greatest track for him, even though it's lower grip, kind of similar to Vegas in the sense that it should be a good track for him. Vegas was great for him in the Xfinity Series level, but luck not on his side at Homestead. But so far this weekend, it might be on his side as he's rolling a hot foot, I guess, behind the wheel. He'll be on the front row as Byron is going to settle himself in 5th to finish things out. Byron's win here came in 2021 at Homestead-Miami Speedway. He has 2 top 5s, 4 top 10s, and no finish worse than 12th in his last 5 starts at Miami. But he'll be starting 5th on race day tomorrow. Again, Byron, 32.134. Alex Bowman on the pole for the Straight Talk Wireless 400 at Homestead-Miami Speedway. It'll be his first pole of the season and his first career pole here in Miami. Congratulations to him. Josh Berry on the front row after a win a week ago. Wood Brothers, can they go back-to-back? Unbelievable. Is Homestead a track I like? Oh, of course. Yeah, I love Homestead. That and Kansas, definitely my 2 favorite mile and a half. So I probably favor Kansas a little bit more. So I feel like with Homestead, it's harder to pass just because the wall is just so much more dominant when the grip is low in the tires. It's harder to pass longer in the run than it is at Kansas, where it seems more evenly spaced from top to bottom. The wall and the top line isn't as overpowering, I guess, but yeah, I definitely like it. It's an overgrown dirt track, and I'm a big dirt racing guy. Yeah, I love Homestead. And Josh Berry and Alex Bowman probably love Homestead already this weekend, knowing that they're starting on the front row. Again, that Bowman lap time of 31.982, average speed of 168.845 miles per hour on that lap as well. So congratulations to him and Josh Berry on the front row. We'll go through the rest of the starting lineup here at the end of the stream. We got in row number 2, Noah Gragson and Chase Briscoe. Man, Gragson so close. Came down to the last 3 drivers before he finally got bumped off the top spot. He was the 5th driver out of 37. Held on for over 30 qualifiers before getting bumped. Chase Briscoe also in that row. Good starting spot for him. He had the pole in the Daytona 500, but that's really his only good qualifying effort this year. So good that he's up in the top 5. Needs a solid run. JGR struggled last week all the way around. But this week, looking a little quicker through practice side of things. We'll see how the race goes. In row 3 will be William Byron and Ryan Blaney. Blaney, the multi-time runner-up the last 2 years. Byron, the 2021 winner. In row 4 will be John Hunter Nemechek and Austin Cindric. Rounding out the top 10, Bubba Wallace, AJ Allmendinger. AJ going for 4 straight Homestead top 10s. Chris Buescher, Joey Logano in row number 6. Ty Gibbs with a much better starting spot than recent weeks. He'll be inside of row 7. And Kyle Larson, triple duty this weekend. He'll be going for the Xfinity win at row 7. Row 8 for Carson Hocevar, Christopher Bell. Bell, the winner here 2 years ago in 23. St. Smith, Chase Elliott. Row 9. Row 10, Riley Herbst, Justin Haley. Tyler Reddick, defending winner of the race, will be inside of row number 11 with Kyle Busch, the 2-time Homestead winner. 3-time Homestead winner Denny Hamlin inside of row 12 with Cole Custer. Ross Chastain, Ricky Stenhouse Jr., row 13. Michael McDowell and Eric Jones, row 14. Todd Gillen, Austin Dillon, row 15. Ryan Preece, Brad Keselowski for RFK in row 16. Row 17, Daniel Suarez, Ty Dillon. Shane Van Gisbergen and Cody Ware, row 18. In row 19, rounding out our 37-car field, will be J.J. Yaley. So thank you to all watching the stream here today. Be sure to hit the like button if you haven't done so yet. Subscribe for more daily NASCAR content on the channel. We will be live at 4 p.m. Eastern for the NASCAR Xfinity Series race later today. And our Cup Series coverage tomorrow afternoon will begin at 2:30 p.m. Eastern with our pre-race show Thank you all for watching this live commentary of practice and qualifying on the channel, and I'll see you guys in about another hour for our next live stream.